Hello guys, back to another video, and today gonna do something different. Gonna focus more to the theoretical point of poker, and we're gonna see um, the basic heuristics to defend our big blind versus c-bet, button versus big blind single raise spot. Firstly, I'm gonna say sorry in advance about my language. I will try to do my best and explain things properly. So, firstly, I want to discuss some topic about how you're gonna maximize your study EV. This is for players that want to start studying poker and they don't know how to study properly. So the three main factors and very important, it's one, you have to study in static nature. And what does this means? It means that you have to pick, you have to choose the best ranges for your game, your pool you play on, because when we change the ranges, the post-flop strategy changes a ton. So you have to choose the best ranges for your game and start to study them. Second, and it's kinda similar to the first, you have to simplify your game and use simplified strategies, because simplified strategies, it's more easier to imply, and also it takes less brain damage, and so simplified strategies will make you the most of the EV long run. And thirdly, and most important, it's to study the most common spots you face. Most common spots in poker, it's around the blinds, the big blind and the small blind. So, for example, you want to study more the big blind defense versus c-bets, or the blind versus blind spot c-bet, or something like that. So, let's see. So, as I said, we're going to discuss the button versus big blind c-bet flop defense. And we're going to see the basic factors we have to consider when we face a bet. So the basic factor is one, and most important, the sizing. Second, position. Third, dynamic of the board. And lastly, the player type. The last player type, it's more advanced factor, I should say, and more exploitative thing. So we're gonna skip this one, and we're gonna jump into the basic heuristic for flop defense. So which hands we should continue when we face a c-bet. So the first is the most obvious. When we have on pair on the board, we can't fold for sure. So firstly gonna be pairs, second gonna be the flush draws, third gonna be straight draws, and the last gonna be overcards. And when I say overcards, I will give you an example. It's when you have king queen offsuit on 10-5-3 rainbow, and we do face 1/3 sizing, we have to defend. Okay, king queen doesn't have a pair on the board, but doesn't either have a flush draw possibility or a straight draw possibility on the flop. It's just random two overs on the board. But this heuristic changes a lot when we change opponent position, because our showdown value drops. For example, if we face the 1/3 sizing from the bottom, king queen has to defend versus the 1/3 sizing, because has a lot of showdown value. And also has outs to the 10, the 5, and 3. When we turn a king or a queen, it's a very strong hand. So we can't fold too much equity to one-third sizing. But when opponent position, it's, for example, early position, and we do face the one-third sizing on 10-5-3 rainbow, same board, it starts to be break even or slightly losing or start mixing. So yeah, the main takeaway for flop defense, it's that the high showdown value hands wants to call. Okay, very simple. So here we're gonna see the heuristics for check raise for value. So basically, which type of hands wanna check raise more often, more frequently for value. Basically, it's the type of hands that unblocks villain's calling range. And what does it means? Um, for example, if there is a board like Queen 5-3 Rainbow, um, and we do face the c-bet, we typically want to unblock the Queen X region of that board. So uh, bottom and middle set, it's a very great candidates to check raise because they don't block the Queen. Secondly, top two pairs and bottom two pairs want to check raise very frequently for a check raise. Top two pairs, basically, it's a very strong hand. Does block villains calling range, but we don't care. We just wanna put as many money we can on the flop. And bottom two pairs, we wanna block the top pair, which is the queen, so want to check raise more often. And third, and less frequently check raise, it's the strongest stoppers. Once again, this changes a lot when the board it's more dynamic, because when we are on the big blind and we are out of position, we have low equity realization. And on dynamic boards, our strong hands on the flop won't realize equity due to the nature of the board. For example, let's say we have ace jack and we have a jack 9-7 rainbow with a flush draw. When I write TT, it's two tone. It has flush draw. So we have ace jack on jack 9-7. Ace jack on jack 9-7 wants to raise less often than on jack 8-3 rainbow board because it can't realize too much equity when we arrive to the river, because on jack 9-7 two-tone board there will be a lot of turns and rivers that 8 jack will not longer be the best combo. So the more the dynamic of the board, the less of top pairs we want to check raise. And lastly, I want to discuss the heuristic uh, for check raising as a bluff. So the basic heuristic to choose what type of combos we want to check raise as a bluff is it's around the combos that has low showdown value but very high equity. And this is the type of hands that it's around the flush draw region, straight draw region, and thirdly the bottom pairs. This one it's less often, and we wanna use check raise as a semi bluff with bottom pairs when there is no flush draw or straight draw on the board. So typically, this type of hands blocks villains' continuing range and have a lot of equity to hit the big hand until the river, but they don't have much showdown value. So the lower the showdown value and grid blockers, the more we want to check raise. For example, if we have a board like 10-8-5 rainbow and we do face the c-bet, we're gonna see that 9-7 suited gonna check raise more often than jack 9 offsuit. And we're gonna see that 9-7 suited, it's a hand that has lower showdown value, but has a higher equity or can can call for example on 10-8-5 rainbow board, if we do face a c-bet, we're gonna see that 9-7 suited gonna 3-bet, gonna check raise, sorry, more often than Jack-9 offsuit. And we're gonna see that Jack-9 offsuit, it's at first glance, you're gonna see that it's a much stronger hand because it's Jack high and has open-ended straight draw with a Jack. But um, the basic heuristic is that 9-7 suited has a lower showdown value, and because has lower showdown value and basically can't call too much c-bets on the turn, uh, you have to check raise more often this type of hands like than the Jack-9 offsuit hand. So now we're gonna see a board and we're gonna see how the GTO interacts on this.
So we jump into GTO wizard, and we're gonna see how the big blind interacts when we face one-third sizing on a random board. And we're gonna see how this changes if, for example, we change the sizing of the seabed and when we change the position that the opponent is. So, gonna go and put one of the 9-5 rainbow board firstly, and we're gonna make him bet 1/3. Very great support from the button range, and now we're gonna see how the big blind interacts. So the first heuristic, as I said, from for calling the flop, it's that we want to call more often with hands that has showdown value. Hands with showdown value, as I said, it's the pairs, hands that has a flush draw, trade draw, or has random overcards to the board. So pretty simple, as we expected versus one-third sizing. We see that no pairs folding in these positions versus one-third sizing. Very simple. And the tricky part for calling the flop, and the most difficult, it's which random overcards we have to defend versus one-third sizing. At first glance, we're gonna see that hands like ace-4 suited looks like a crappy hand with just an ace high, but typically in these spots, when the ranges are very wide, we have to defend this kind backdoor hands, which has great equity. Also, we can put them some of the time towards raising range because you have very great blockers for the continuing range. For example, if you have a hand like King 6 suited, but we see that the solver likes to take it as a check raise some of the time, low frequency of the time, because the king has a great blocker, blocking hands like king 10 offsuit, king 9 offsuit, king 9 suited, king 10 suited. Also, the 6 blocks a lot of trade draws. So typically one quick heuristic we want to put it's we want to call hands that has either one card to the board and card over to the other cards of the board, like king 6 has over to the queen, the 6 has over to the 5 and has backdoor potential. So one quick heuristic is like this, that we have to defend sometimes hands that have over to the boards. And we're gonna see the heuristic that we said about the type of hands that we want to put them in our raising range. And as I said previously, we want to check raise more often hands that has low showdown value but high EV. This type of hands are mostly the straight draws and the flush draws. At this point, if you have no straight draw, no flush draw possibility. So typically, you're gonna be around the straight draws. So for example, we're gonna see that a hand like 7-8 suited, it's a very great candidate to check raise. Because it has very great blockers to continuing range of villains c-bets. Blocks a lot of continuing range of the villain c-bet range. And we're gonna see that a hand like Jack 10, hand like King Jack offsuit, for example, looks more stronger, but because King Jack offsuit has more showdown value, you want to put it more to our check calling range. And hands like 7-8 suited, it has only 8 high on the flop, but it has no showdown value, and as we see, it has more EV than Queen Jack offsuit. So the mainly here is that we want to check raise hands with no showdown value and more equity. It's approved by the solver in this spot. Now we're gonna see which type of hands we want to raise as a value. So the mainly heuristic, as we said, it's around the hands that unblocks villain's calling range. Villain's calling range mainly gonna be the Queen X combos that c-bets the flop. So the sets, it's a very high frequency check raise candidates because they unblock the Queen X, as we see. There are pure check raise and two pairs. As we see, Queen 9 suited, it's very strong combo to check raise. You can tell me that Queen 9 blocks villain's calling range as it blocks and the Queen and the 9, but typically it's a very strong holding that we wanna rush money into the pot and make it as bigger as we can. So always the top two pair are gonna be our mainly check raising on the spots on rainbow boards. Gonna see that the bottom two pairs, as I mentioned, it's a high frequency check raise because unblocks the Queen X. And very interesting, we're gonna see that the Queen 5 suited, the top and the bottom two pairs want to check raise less often. And that's why, because the Queen blocks the villain's calling range. And Queen 5, it's a kinda strong hand, but we can't rush too many money into the pot until the river because there are a lot of rivers that we can get counterfeited or villain makes a better hand like a straight or a flush or something like that. So it's a very great candidate to put in our check calling range, very strong. Okay. And we said that the strongest of the top pairs gonna check raise uh, check raise often here. It's gonna see ace queen. It's a pure check raise in this spot. We do have it a little bit of the time, but if we have it, we check raise it sure. Also king queen gets in there, and we're gonna see that solver likes to check raise this type of backdoor equity top pairs, which wants and a little bit of protection, more protection. So the mainly heuristics of check raising for value once again approved on the spot. Now what we're gonna do is to just shift the c-bet 1/3 to an overbet. And we're gonna see how the big blinds interacts on this. So, as I said, the basic factors we want to think when we face a c-bet, it's the first and most important, it's the sizing and the position of the player. So the position of the player at this time, it's static, it's pattern. We don't change the opponent's position, but we do change the sizing. Excuse me. So versus overbet, we're gonna see that a lot of third pairs, typically the third pairs which don't have the backdoor equity, hands like 5, 6 of spades, uh, it's a pure fold versus the overbet. And even some second pairs just folding. So Jack 9 with no backdoor flush draw, and also the Jack blocks a lot of bluffs. It's close to pure fold. So once again, we're gonna see that this is very important. That you must focus on the opponent's bit sizing and then take the action. Don't call just because we don't call because we have just a pair on the board. This changes a lot. And also another thing we're gonna see, it's that I'm gonna change the board to more dynamic. So I will put an 8 and the flush on the board. And we're gonna see that um, as I said, that the main heuristics for check raising for value or for bluffs changes a lot when the dynamic of the board changes. So typically on more dynamic boards, we can check raise that thing of a value. So for example, if we have a hand like a two pair, we see that all the two pairs now shifts to more calling because there is a straight on the board. Also, there is a flush on the board. So our mainly check raise for value combos will become the straights and some sets. So solver likes to check raise with more strongest hands in this type of boards. It's very interesting to understand this thing. And because, as I said, when we are on the big blind, we unfortunately have low equity realization, and we can't put money in the pot uh, too early with the pair combos when there is a straight on the board and flush opportunity for villain. Now, what we gonna see, it's I will change position of the opponent. We're gonna see at queen 10. I'm gonna see the same board. Queen 9-5, for example. Gonna see how the big blinds interact on this when we do face a c-bet. So pretty much versus one third sizing, we're gonna see that no pair folding to one third sizing on this kinda unconnected board. But what changes in this spot? It's that the big blind now starts folding hands like pocket sixes, pocket fours, pocket threes, and pocket deuces. So also hands like ace four suited, ace three suited now becomes close to folds and raises. Also hands like a7 suited doesn't defend the flop. Wherein previously the A6 to A7 suited was a pure call or mix raises. Also gonna say that hands like Ace Jack offsuit and Ace 10 offsuit becomes pure folds in this spot. So the main factor that we have to think in game, the sizing and the position, we see another time that proves right. So this is the main factors and the basic heuristics for defending the bridge lines. I hope you guys liked this video. If you have any interesting ideas, you can um, write down in the comments. Till the next one, take care.